or chorus, and I'll tell you which is which. And then I'll tell you that this form is called an octastitch. I'm pants at reading music, and I don't have perfect pitch. But when it comes to writing songs, I've got to scratch that itch. HFO goes live on air, we all expect a glitch. 'Cause every show I do, I know that I will find a hitch. I'm not expecting what I do to ever make me rich. I'm having fun with making music here right now with you on Twitch. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, good night, wherever you are across the globe. It's Sunday, the 21st of February, 2021. Hello, the gang's piled in this evening. Hello to Array of Emotions. Hello to Riako Music. Hello to Yano Arias. Hello to Dazed and Confused. Yeah. Everybody's asking everybody else how they all are, because it's kind of that sort of time of the year, and everybody's getting a bit stressed and a bit bleh. And yeah, I posted something on FAWM earlier today, which was kind of a public service announcement, because people are getting stressed about FAWM, about not doing enough songs, or not doing enough listening, or not doing enough commenting, or not doing the sort of music that they think they ought to be doing. And that's not the point. It's really not the point of February Album Writing Month. The point is to have fun. And if you're not having fun doing February Album Writing Month, then frankly, you're doing it wrong. And just don't compare yourself to what nutters like me are doing, because I'm kind of retired. I can just do what I want all day, and it tends to end up with me sitting in this chair in here, which is one of the reasons why my current FAWM progress is now sitting at 18 songs. Yes, I've won FAWM. I also am amongst fairly august company, because I'm not the only one who's done it. There are 171 people who've managed to write 14 songs. I mean, Davey Boy's been knocking them out of the park. 43 songs. Jeff's done 25 there. Alex, bless him, has done Metalfoot. Where are you? Somewhere there. He's done over 50. Carlo 2013's done 90, and a lot of those have been collabs with other people, and they're brilliant. But if you have only done one song, or have only thought about writing one song, it doesn't matter. It's all good. The idea is you have fun, you exercise your creative muscles a little bit. Doesn't matter how much. You've got to just say, I have finished this song, and move on to another one. That's all that matters. Just remember to breathe. Just relax and have fun, because fun is what it's all about. Yano Arias says, I've got more collabs coming out next week. Only 11 collaborations so far. One of them with Chris. Thank you again, by the way. And to that end, let's go to that collaboration, because I thought that would be a great place to start. Yuha and I were chatting on Slack, and he said, are we going to do a collaboration? And I said, yeah, I think so. And he threw a YouTube video at me as an idea and said, how about starting with something like this? And it was the theme tune to Buck Rogers in the 25th Century. Yes, the one with Gil Gerard and the annoying robot voiced by Bugs Bunny himself, Mel Blanc. And yeah, so I said, okay, that gives me a good ballpark to aim for, because it's very much sort of classical arrangements, but sort of 80s disco, although I guess it was probably 70s disco, with the occasional do-do-do-do Simmons drums, and cheese was the watchword of Buck Rogers in the 25th century. It was basically thrown together as a sort of retort to Battlestar Galactica, and the two were pretty much of a muchness. But to that end, I fired up the Korg M3, what is behind me, because one of our friends, Andy, who is Artificial Eye on February Album Writing Month, gave us a title for our collaboration, which was The Petting Zoo from Hell. At which point it's like, I have a sample for that. I've just realised the camera's slow because I haven't turned my light on, because I've not been together, have I? There we go. That should, yeah, that's sped up the shutter speed a bit, hasn't it? So yeah, turn to the Korg, because the Korg has a preset in it which is called Prehistoric Predator. So it's kind of do-it-yourself Jurassic Park theme tune soundtrack. So there's loads of nice little samples in it. But best of all, there's this. So, I mean, after I got that, the rest of the song pretty much wrote itself, really. So I did a backing track, whacked it onto Dropbox and sent it over to Yano Arias, who did his best to really, really mess it up, as he said himself, and did a glorious job with a whole battery of mad synthesizers sound. And he said, look, do you want me to do this straight or do you want me to do this silly? And I said, it's got to be silly. So he certainly delivered. And what I shall do is we'll go over to Ableton Live 10, because it's not Tuesday yet, it's not Live 11 yet, but it won't be long before it is. And this track is called The Petting Zoo from Hell. So that was The Petting Zoo from Hell, a collaboration between Januarius and my good self that was produced for February album writing month this year. Riaka Music says, I was thinking of doing at least one more Form song before the end. Would you like to do Björk and Kirk Go to Ariston? Oh, sign me up. I will do that in a heartbeat. What would Kirk even order? Probably pizza and a Michelob, going by Star Trek for the Voyage Home. Yellow says, surprisingly, this is the first collab me and Chris have done together. Yeah, I was surprised by that. And see, this week, all my collabs have been coming in. And I posted one this morning, which I'll play you in a bit, from Alex Metalfoot and myself. And I was convinced that we'd done at least one collaboration in the past. I think we probably both worked together on one of Dragon Dreams' projects, which is where I was getting confused. But Alex said, no, this is the first time we've done a collab together. And it really did come off very well. And it's Alex's birthday today, so wishing Metalfoot a very, very happy birthday in the frozen wastes of Canada. Yes, not for me. Dazed and Confused says, I want to hear Kirk and Björk arguing over the tip. Yanuera says, this form also my first collab with Sapient and first one with Alex. Alex has been collabing left, right and centre, and they've been brilliant. So, yeah, it's definitely been a good year for collaborations. I will play you one now that I really just sort of sat back and let the music happen on this one. I didn't have to do anything. What happened is our good friend Fuzzy, also from Canada, emailed me and said, can I mangle one of your songs again? I said, oh, of course you can. So I sent him all the individual tracks rendered out. And just to remind you of the original song, let's call it up and I'll give you a bit of, in fact, let's just do it on form. It's easier, isn't it? So I'd already posted this song, which I've played you on this track, which is called So Much Winning. So it was my Brexit song. And if you remember, it sounded like this. Okay, so fairly straightforward, me just being a grumpy old me and complaining about the shambles that this country's got itself into by voting to leave the common market. But Fuzzy being Fuzzy, Fuzzy's audio processing magic kicked in big time, and the result is this. This is called More Monkfish Than Monkish. just savouring every last second of that. That is just stunning. And apparently it's me. So thank you, Fuzzy, for that, which he apologised for just posting it without even sending it to me. But I had absolute confidence that he would knock it out of the park, and he has. Yeah, I called up that picture of the cover of Fripp and Eno's No Pussyfooting because it's the beginning of Frippatronics, right? It's the first album where Eno and Robert really started to explore what it meant to be a rock musician, and went in all sorts of bizarre and exciting places. And the story, which is absolutely true, because I've heard it from John Peel, bless his cotton socks, and from Eno himself, that Eno wanted John Peel to have a good listen to it and play it on the John Peel Show, which was a 10 o'clock radio show on Radio 1 in the 70s and 80s that I listened to whenever I could. John Peel was an absolute champion of music by bands from across the musical spectrum. Everything from The Fall to Half Man, Half Biscuit. They all got sessions on John Peel's show. And Eno dropped the master tapes from No Pussyfooting into John Peel. And when you play tapes, you do either tail out or tail in. It's whether you have to rewind it first or whether you just play it and then hand it back, but you say it's tail out, which is the end of the tape, you know, when the tape finishes going off one reel and just goes round and round and round and round on the other, and it's all over. Unfortunately, Mr. Peel didn't actually bother paying attention to the label, if indeed there was a label on the tapes, by the time it got to him in the Radio 1 studio. So he announced that he'd got an exclusive track from the new album by Robert Fripp and Brian Eno, and the album was called No Pussyfooting, and he played it in its 20-minute entirety, backwards. And the only person who noticed was Brian Eno, who was desperately trying to phone John Peel and get through the BBC switchboard to tell him, "You've got it backwards." But no, it didn't really damage the album's success at all. And in fact, when they reissued it at the beginning of the 21st century, it does now come with a second CD in the box, which is the album played backwards, which I think is just such a marvellously sweet tribute to the best disc jockey that Radio 1 ever had. May he rest in peace. So yeah, Fuzzy definitely does amazing things with his sonic arsenal. Even with a humble melodica, he can make it do arcane and magical things. And when it comes to weird and crazy music, I've been to Piano Book this evening and they've got a new instrument out. Yes, Wandering Artist has decided that the only way to play a piano properly is to play it with an E-bow. So here's a demo. Right, Januarius says, "What's an E-bow?" There you go. This is an E-bow. I shall play something for you with an E-bow. So effectively what it is a storage compartment for a PP9 battery, right? So there you go. Good Scandinavian brand of battery there, Varta PP9 battery. And it has a switch and a very bright LED light on it, right? So what you now need, as well as an EBow, is a musical instrument with strings. So the piano book instrument uses, strangely enough, piano, because that's what piano book's all around. I am going to use a guitar. If I can plug that in. So if I now find a suitably noisy patch on the guitar, and without plucking the strings at all, I'm going to switch the EBow on and hold it over the strings, right? So basically it's just a magnetic field that shakes the string at the sort of frequency that guitars make notes at. But it has a super secret second function, which if I put the switch the other way, it works on the harmonics of the string rather than the fundamentals. So exactly the same position on the fretboard. Different notes. It is an extraordinarily addictive little toy. Cost about 70 quid, I think. Well, when I bought mine, they were about 50, but I think they've gone up considerably since then. The EBow is one of those staple bits of kit that any prog rocker, or as Array of Emotions quite rightly observes, it's the sound of Opeth's Blackwater Park album. Robert Fripp gets this sound and has never used one. These days, rather than have a thing that you can hold over the strings, some people, such as Mr. Johnny Greenwood from Radiohead, has the EBow gubbins built into his guitar. So this is what a sustainer guitar does, right? It basically has a second set of magnetic fields. So the pickups sense the string moving through the magnetic field of the pickup, and that turns into electric current, which then becomes the signal that goes to your amplifier. The EBow does it the other way around. The electric current turns into a magnetic field, and that shakes the string in the first place. So it's all the balance of the universe is restored. But yeah, they're great fun. You even get a lovely little velvet carrying bag to put it in, and a player's guide, which includes an MP3 lesson of how to hold it over the strings. Because if you look, see it's got grooves in it. So you basically get the string in that central groove, and try not to clout the other strings. Also, it works much better on strings that are round wound or flat wound, rather than just a thin top three strings, which are just long, thin pieces of metal, right? So the heavier gauge strings that you've got, the nicer the sound you can get. And that's why I use mine an awful lot with the 9-string, which, yeah, absolutely great fun. So yes, that's an EBow, and the piano book people have an EBowed piano now. So I've downloaded that, and I've just finished Complete Control scanning all my fresh downloads this week, which is basically that. And so we'll probably find that cropping up in a piece of music or two this week. I think it's almost guaranteed. What else have I been doing this week? Well, you see, I thought that was rather appropriate for people who are stressing out about February album writing month. Again, Mr. Eno, the Oblique Strategies cards. So back in the days when I actually had a decent job and was earning nice money, bought myself a set. So I actually have a set of the real physical Oblique Strategies card. But you don't have to spend 40 or 50 quid on a packet of very, very nicely produced cards. You can go online, and it's Stoney with an ey.sb.org/eno/oblique. I'll put the URL in the show notes when I post this on YouTube. But I rather like that one. I went to the site today because I quite often just go and click and say, oh, what's Brian going to tell me today? And I just thought that was lovely and that I ought to share. Don't be afraid of things because they're easy to do. If you're stressing out about listening to music and figuring out what it means to you, then please don't. Just sit and enjoy it. And at the end of it, if you want to leave a comment on one of some Formers songs on the Form website, just tell them what it felt like to sit there and experience it. You don't have to write a dissertation about commenting on stuff. Have fun. I go completely down the rabbit hole sometimes when I write comments on people's songs on February album writing month, and the mad thing is that they actually like it. So that's the oblique strategy for this closing week of February album writing month, I think, from Mr. Eno himself. Don't be afraid of things because they're easy to do. Just enjoy doing them. So, Yellow Arrow says, TC reminded me that 15090 I wrote a rather cheeky forum post called something like Guide to Writing Comments. Yeah, I know what your sense of humour's like, sir. Yes, that's why certain elements of the petting zoo from hell were in fact muted, because avant-garde is one thing, but it's like that's not in the right key. And I could have transposed it and been really, really super clever and nerdy, but I just thought, you know what? I'm just going to put guitars in instead. And that's what I did. And once I put the guitars in there, I went backwards through the song and put guitars in two other places as well, and had a damn good time doing it. I think the one I played you on Thursday was pattern reinforcement. Okay. Pattern reinforcement is interesting. Okay, not for any particular reason of musicality or technical wizardry or anything else. I figured out today that pattern reinforcement was the 800th song that I've written since I signed up for February album writing month in January 2009. 805 songs I've now got under my belt as a result of taking part in this absolutely insanely mad challenge of writing 14 songs in 28 days. And the first year, I think I wrote one song and it was terrible. And the next year I wrote one song and it was terrible, but I've kind of come on since then a bit. And yeah, so Pattern Recognition was the 800th song. So I've got another 5 down since then. So Pattern Reinforcement, not Pattern Recognition. Pattern Recognition is a book by William Gibson. Pattern Reinforcement is me talking about how friends and family try and force you to stay being the person that you were rather than the person that you're trying to become. So, yeah, deep. The subsequent song that I've already played you was The Petting Zoo from Hell. So, the next one on my list, and I rather liked the idea of the title, because I think somebody, it's a meme, but somebody actually posted a forum thread which was given this title, and that's how it started, how it's going. And I thought, oh, that's perfect. Ryaka Music says, we were all terrible. Indeed. Well, you weren't. You were bloody good, even from the first CD that you showed up with as Palydust back in, what was that, 2007? When we all met up in London for, strangely enough, the release of William Gibson's book, Pattern Recognition, which is, see, that's the universe tying everything together. Ryaka Music says, I was absolute shite. You were not. But, I mean, we learned so much. We have all come on so much since we started doing February Album Writing Month. And that's kind of the point. That the more that you take part in February Album Writing Month, the more you write, the more you plough through the stuff that may indeed be absolute shite, as a lot of mine was, you eventually start getting to the point where it almost sounds like you know what you're doing. And case in point, this one I actually live streamed. So if you look at other videos on my Twitch channel, you will find one that I did on Saturday afternoon, which is me doing this. So I can spare you the 3 hours of video of me just sitting at this desk, looking at the monitor and playing various things over and over and over and over and over and over and over until I got them right. And I'll just play the finished article. And this one's called How It Started, How It's Going. That's the first time I listened to that again today after uploading it yesterday. I think I might mark that as a favourite, you know. I rather like that. Bombastic much? I was saying on the chat, I think I could probably go even more over the top. It certainly wouldn't suffer from the addition of timpani. I'm thinking kind of it's got to have tubular bells in that last section at least once. And but yeah, people saying no, don't replace the bass. Yeah, keep the bass. The bass is actually me. It's not a MIDI instrument or anything else. It's the trusty 9-string once again, and me just getting my groove on. It took me, if you watch the stream, it took me a while to get into it, but after I'd been working on about half the bass line, it's like suddenly the muscle memory kicked in. It was like, oh, I know what I'm supposed to be doing, and off I went. And I'm rather pleased with the bass line. One of the reasons that it beds in so well is because, as before, I've been using the Waves Bass Rider plugin. It effectively rides the volume up and down, so it controls the excesses when I get really enthusiastic, because you can see the amplitude of the waveform. It does go up and down quite a bit, and you can see once I really started getting into it in the second half of the track, the amplitude's considerably larger than it is on the first half of the track. So Bass Rider, definitely worth the money. And I've actually also now started using Vocal Rider. Both of these were recommendations from Helen's Evil Twin. So hello, Helen, if you're watching this. Yeah, absolutely loving what it does, because every time I use those two plugins, and they're like 29 quid at the moment, because Waves, as always, are doing a sale where everything is 40% off. Every time I've used those two plugins, people have said specifically about the tracks that I've used them on, oh, that sounds really good. And I'm not really doing anything different other than what I've always done, other than having that plugin on the track, which is kind of sad. But what is there on it? So this is all about the layers. Again, I was saying on the chat. So the track I did with Januarius was very much using the Abbey Road 1 Orchestral Fundamentals package from Spitfire Audio. This because I kind of knew what I wanted to do in terms of the orchestral arrangement. I used the BBC Symphony Orchestra package, which rather than just having strings or brass or high brass or low brass or tuned percussion, actually has all the different orchestral sections split out into all the different orchestral sections. So you actually learn how to start writing for a proper symphony orchestra, which, yeah, I never saw that coming. Januarius says, plugins give you the confidence to play like a boss. Well, that's kind of you to say so. But yeah, quite frankly, in my humble opinion, I was playing like a boss by the end of the track on Saturday afternoon. It's worth watching. Yeah, so I'm back to pianos again, because this whole track just started out with one of my favourite contact instruments, and that is the Grandeur from Native Instruments. So it's a sample grand piano rather than the Arturia piano, which is modelled physically. So that's all about the computer figuring out the oscillations of particular weights of strings, yada yada yada. This is just a guy in a concert hall sticking a microphone into a grand piano and then playing a note at various velocities. But it sounds glorious, especially if it's got a bit of Valhalla supermassive reverb dropped on it, because we are all about the Valhalla supermassive reverb here. It is an absolutely glorious plugin. It's absolutely free. Go to the Valhalla DSP website and avail yourself of it, because it's glorious. And this is what the piano sounds like, just with the Valhalla supermassive dropped on it. And that was basically what I sat down with the Complete Control S88 that I've got under the desk here, because the desk was, strangely enough, built specially for the Complete Control S88 Mark II to fit underneath, so I can just slide it out and play. It's glorious. So thank you once again to Guy Mitson at Chunky Studio Furniture for producing this wonderful desk, which has completely changed the studio and this entire room, as you can see. So once I'd got the piano down, next thing was, believe it or not, bassoons. It will go. There we go. And when you've got bassoons, then quite frankly, you've got to go with oboes, haven't you? And that's it. That's the whole song. It's just those three repeating sections. So there's an A section, a B section, an A section, a B section, and then the oboes take over for the C section, and everything else is kind of just gravy. But I had great fun with the guitars. So particularly, as again, we talked earlier about, I seem to be having this phase this week of doing triple harmony guitar tracks. And here they are again. And then some nice smooth jazz guitar for the main part. So we're back in the A section again now. So yeah, bit of a departure for me, that, because I have not had the confidence to play bass like a boss, as Jan Arias described it earlier. I haven't had the confidence to just do that. Certainly haven't had the confidence before to do that actually while a camera was watching me do it in here. But streaming does weird things to your self-confidence. If you do it long enough, you actually get to the point where you don't care as much about making a complete idiot of yourself on camera. And I mean, hey, it's me. You know how many hitches and glitches that we get on these shows, even when I remember to look at the correct camera. So it's just been really, really good fun streaming. And I think I'll probably be streaming a fair bit during the day over the next week, because it's nice. However, we did have one numpty on Saturday who, despite the fact that my rules in the chat clearly say we're not interested in listening to your tunes, do not spam the chat. Guy came in, first thing he said was, would you be interested in listening to my music? So yeah, he got upset when I challenged him, so I timed him out, and that drove him away. And quite frankly, my chat rules, which I checked afterwards, I'm sure I told people not to do that. Am I going mad, or are people just ignoring what I asked them to do? I went back and no, it was in there. And in fact, in the chat rules, I say, if you do it, you will be blocked and reported. So if he tries it again, that's what will happen. But January says the world needs more idiots 24/7. No, please. This country has way too many idiots as it is. And unfortunately, most of them are in government. But let's not go there. Okay, so that was track number, what track was that? That was track number 15. So let's go on to the birthday boy himself. So Metalfoot and I did a collaboration. I sent him a very, very rough track that literally had the drums and the guitar and the bass. And that was it. And I sent it to Alex and said, calling it Masks. And Alex went, oh, brilliant. Yeah, I can do that. He sent me a superb vocal track back, which as you can see, I've edited it a bit. So Alex actually now sings and accompanies himself because I cut and pasted the choruses so the choruses get bigger, and I dropped some vocals by me just underneath some of the vocals that Alex did at the beginning and end of the bridge. I took out some of the vocals in the middle because triple harmony guitar time again, folks. And this one I finished this morning, uploaded it. Alex is very pleased with it. I'm very pleased with it. I'm kind of at the point with this one. It's like, no, I was really partly responsible for that because it really doesn't sound like me, but that's me. I like this one a lot. It's called Masks. The vocals are by Alex and everything else is me. And here we go.
Staring at mortality, existence dwindling rapidly, breaking from monotony with some musicality. Ourselves, we all know the truth, what's deep inside.
So, as Yuha says in the chat, yeah, Alex has a way of pushing people into doing weird things. It's his priestly powers. And, yeah, that really, I wasn't expecting it to go the way it did, but the way that Alex dropped the note on that last vocal going into the bridge, it's like, well, I can't do a sort of nice poppy upbeat guitar solo because that sounds kind of dark. So I went dark, and yeah, that guitar solo, no idea where it came from, but I really hope I can find that place again, because I really, really, really like the sound that I got there. And there's all of the guitar tones on that are my ancient Zoom G3 multi-effects box. So there's a multi-mod patch, which is the main guitar, the track that goes all the way through at the top there. There's various patches programmed by, I think it's Richie Kotzen. There's one that is effectively, it's modeling the amps that Steve Vai used. And it's all the Parker Fly. I didn't use any of my other guitars for this, which again surprised me, because I'm all about, ooh, I think I'll have the Carvin today, or I think I'll have the Godin, or perhaps the Fender Telecaster, or perhaps the Ibanez. But no, just picked up the Fly because it's next to me in the stand here by my chair, and off I went. And right, synths. It's all Arturia V collection, basically. Not that I'm predictable or anything. So the Farfisa. Is it a Farfisa? No, it's the Solina string machine. Yes, there you go. So it's one of the cheesiest home organs that it is possible to find, and staple of many, many, many 70s prog rock bands. Oh, so many 70s prog rock bands, and it's a suitable sort of ecclesiastical patch, I thought. Let's just go back to where we are in the track so you can hear it rather than it being post fade, because post fade at the bottom you won't hear anything if the playback heads the other side of that, will you? Here we go. It's sort of a bit Tangerine Dreamy, I thought, and so I thought, okay, that's pretty good, but haven't really played with this little fella yet, and in terms of my musical adventures, and they've just uploaded the software again. That's interesting. It does this every time I run, or in the Arturia application updates itself, because I used this 2 hours ago and it didn't tell me, would you like to learn how to use this thing you've never used before? Because I have used it before, because here it is in the track. So yeah, the new edition, one of the new additions to the Arturia V Collection 8 is this monster, which is the Emulator 2, which was kind of a successor to the Fairlight. It was a little bit, if I remember correctly, it was a little bit cheaper than the Fairlight. It was certainly considerably cheaper than the New England Digital Synclavier, which cost more than most people's houses did at the time. And yeah, cheesy strings, really. With, of course, a bucket load of Valhalla Supermassive reverb dropped on it, because, quite frankly, all strings need as much reverb as you can give them to help them. Lots and lots of editing and cutting and pasting in the vocals, but it is actually just one track from Alex and then me basically just muttering in the background. And rather lots of guitar and Superior Drummer 3. And that is Masks. January says, damn, I just talked about Arturia with Chris. It's so heavy it takes me out of flow when I try to use it. How often does Arturia update, says Ryoko Music? Not very often, but it seems to be at the moment that every time I run the software application manager that checks to make sure that you've got the latest versions, if anything updates, it starts throwing those messages of, oh, it seems you've not used this particular synthesizer before. Would you like a tutorial? I am sure there is a way you can turn it off. Yuha says he's having big problems because he has to wait so long for it to load on his system that it takes him out of doing what he's doing. And I sympathise it. He says, I never touch it because I just frown when I think about adding it to a track. And that's not what you want from a tool, really, is it? You want to have everything at arm's reach as it is in here, and to be able to go, what shall I embellish this with, and come up with as much as you can. So 5.5, that's kind of not 8700K and 16 gigs of RAM. The RAM is likely to be one thing that is really slowing you down, because this was quite sluggish when it had 32 gigs of RAM in it, and it sped up a fair bit, and I've got 64 gigs of RAM in it now. But I would say if you've got an SSD, check the V collection on the SSD, and it may load, or it may help you load times. I've realised this when I started FAWM this month, and things were taking, and still are taking, quite a lot of time. And you remember sometimes I played your stuff and it does that funny glitch. I reckon it's my hard drives just are, because they're old ones from my last machine, that I just went, I'm going to have all the terabytes, and just took the old hard drives straight out of my old machine, put them in the spare drive bays on this. So this has got, I think it's 6 or 7 hard drives on it, and sadly only one of them, which is the C drive, the OS, is a solid state drive, and some of the other hard disks are like 5400 RPM, so they're base level slow, but they're big. So what I try and do is offload as much as I can into the memory on this, because I've got memory to throw at it. So I just goes, no, just use RAM, because Ableton is nowhere near pushing this memory wise as far as it can. And I say this, and everything could change on Tuesday, because on Tuesday Live 11 comes out, and I will be downloading it as soon as I get my email telling me that I can download it. I'm seriously considering shelling out for a 4 terabyte SSD for my music libraries, because I know that will make a considerable difference to the speed of what I'm doing on here. I mean, it's an i9, it's a 9900 i9, so it's a monster machine. It's only 2 years old at the most, so it really shouldn't be struggling with the spec it's got. But the weak link is the hard drives, and I think I am going to have to bite the bullet and just upgrade the hard drives, and just spend a day slurping everything off the old hard drive and putting it on a new fast one. But that's for another month, so we'll see. So yes, that was Masks. That was my collaboration with Metalfoot, and that was track number, was it 15, 16? It was track number 16. So I've already played you track number 17 this FAWM, which was my collaboration with Fuzzy, which just leaves us with one more track to talk through today. While Ableton is now hoovering off the all the files from that track, January says, I've got to get me one of those 3 terabyte SSDs. Yeah, absolutely. Right, here we go. Ableton's done its thing. It's got all its files. And there are actually that many on this. So this is the final one, and literally just did this today and just decided, you know what, I'm not gonna do drums, because I've got into the habit at every track. It's like, let's find a nice groove with one of my many tune track expansion packs and drop that into Superior Drummer 3. And for some reason I was just feeling a bit contrary today, so I decided, right, I'm going to delete the drum track from my template, and then I will try and come up with rhythmical devices that I can use instead of drums to create a beat. And that's what I did. And the main rhythmical device what I have used is my trusty G&L S500 electric guitar. So it's my George and Leo Fender Stratocaster Mark II that G&L released, but obviously for copyright reasons couldn't call it a Stratocaster. But it is a Stratocaster, but it's a Stratocaster with bells and whistles. And I thought, you know, if you're gonna do a rhythmical device, then you're gonna really take a leaf out of Dave Gilmour's book, aren't you? You're gonna play with delay. And so I did that and laid down the entire guitar rhythm track in one take, first take, because HFO is playing guitar like a boss this week. And then it was all about dropping all the synths into it, starting at the top here with, of course, the Arturia V Collection Fairlight, which has a rather splendid sort of ethereal pad type sound, which is this. It's funny because when I looked at the V Collection, I thought, oh, Fairlight, I'm gonna, oh, the Fairlight's actually the most least used emulation of any of the synthesizers in the V Collection that I've got, because it's really pitchy. You know, you have to go into the actual, so let's go back to the interface, which I just got rid of. You actually have to go in by clicking on the screen, and for all of these samples you have to really start tweaking the pitch to get it to play nicely with stuff, because they really weren't that fussed about whether it was in key with, you know, A440 when they put it together. But I also wanted some nice rhythmical devices, and I set myself a challenge of coming up with something that actually sounded musical using this thing, which is the Buchla easel, which looks like a stylophone on steroids. These were actually built in the 60s, man. They are collector's items now. All the West Coast minimalists like Terry Riley used these things. I think Lamonte Young, who's an East Coast minimalist, used the Buchla as well. And it's just basically bleepy bloopy stuff. It is very difficult to find anything that is almost remotely standing a chance of playing nicely with other things in a track. It's fine if you just want science fiction bleeping noises, but if you want it to sit in a nice track with a bunch of other stuff, you're gonna find yourself scrolling through an awful lot of presets or fiddling with sliders before you come up with anything that is remotely usable. But I managed it, and I'll stop talking and actually play you it. So this is called, strangely enough, Drummer's Night Off. Everybody in the chat's going, what's going on? There's just female vocals. Not exactly. Reactor Music says, what's that vocal? And you are going to kick yourself when you find out what the vocal actually is, because it's the Arturia V collection. Yep, afraid so. It's the Moog vocoder emulation that dropped in V Collection 8, and I am still getting to grips with it. This is only the second or third track that I've used it on. So you remember that on the Silver Machine tribute that I did at the beginning of the month, I used the Moog vocoder emulation in the V Collection with a patch of, so you can feed a microphone into it and it will, you play chords and it modulates the formants of your speech into the voice of the synth chords, so you effectively get a talking keyboard. And it also comes with a humongous rack of samples. So I mean, like, all of those are different patches of people speaking in French or English, and you know, they're all very, very, very eclectic. But the one that I really liked, that I thought, you know, this is just, nobody's going to expect me to come up with a track that sounds like this.
After dance, you just have to dance down. After dance, you just have to dance down. After dance, you just have to dance down. You just have to dance. You just have to dance down. After dance, you just have to dance down. You just have to dance. You just have to dance down.
Yanni Harris says, I've used some vocoders, but that one sounded really clean. Absolutely. That is it. The M3 behind me can do vocoding. It's got a mic input, and there are a whole slew of vocoder patches, and I've even used some of them in past years for form, but nothing comes close to that Moog vocoder. Absolutely nothing I've heard has that level of clarity, and the timbre of the thing is instantly recognizable. Oh, well, I know what that is. And Reactor Music says, I want that. Yeah, exactly. That's, you know, that is the reaction that most of the stuff in here has prompted me at one point or another of literally hearing something and going, oh yes, well, my music's got to have that sound in it. And yeah, in terms of the V collection, I will be using it, I am sure, more and more frequently. In fact, I may even do one of my deep dive albums in an upcoming month and just say, okay, this month I am going to teach myself how to do vocoder properly. And I know Atiklan was saying, yeah, there's some issues about getting vocals into the vocoder and actually getting the thing to treat them. But I mean, if you've got a WAV file of what you're doing, you drop the WAV file in the interface anyway. And all right, it's a step back from actually a live performance, but it's good enough for me. And yeah, I think I might do that. I might do a vocoder album, but it'll have to be, you know, what's the groove? Get your, you know, Groove Tonight and all the rest. Oh, I've forgotten the name of the band now. And I even went and looked it up and put a subtitle in, because the last time we talked about the Moog vocoder, I said there is one track in particular that if you heard it, you go, oh right, that's what that does. But I'll look it up, and as if by magic, when you're watching this on YouTube, it will appear as large yellow text on the screen in front of you right now. There it is. or there it will be. But lots of other synths on this too. So there was the Buchla. What else? Lots of Pigments, because Pigments. Yes, I was using this very piece of software not 6 hours ago. Thank you. The Pigments software synthesizer from Arturia, which is not part of the V Collection, but the V Collection's analog lab does let you play with quite a few presets from Pigments. But Pigments does some really, really rather splendid acid house type sequency stuff. And quite frankly, when you've had one of those, then you know it's very difficult to stop at one. So I did another one as well. So this is the other one. Still evolving, still doing something different. Oh yeah, says Januaris. Mate, it is an absolutely phenomenal software synth. I think of all the software synths that I actually paid money for, this is the one that I have had my money's worth back from tenfold. Quite easily, because it is an absolutely superb piece of software. Although the interface does, did you see that weird sort of glitch it did then? Oh, there. So I'm, right, okay. It's not a weird glitch. It actually tells you about the sound designer, and some of the sound designs in this particular piece of software are from people like a certain Mr. Edgar Fruser of Tangerine Dream fame. I thought this sounded quite Tangerine Dreamy in places. There are some other Arturia V Collection synths. So I saw the EMS Synthy there. There it is. So if you've got Dark Side of the Moon, right, then this is the piece of technology that shaped the sound of Dark Side of the Moon more than any other piece of kit, with the possible exception of the Fender Stratocaster, because the EMS Synthy and the VKS3, which was its predecessor, which didn't have the keyboard built into it, is on the run, and you all know what that sounds like, and I'm not going to play something and have Twitch's algorithms going, yeah, you're playing Pink Floyd. But on this particular track, what I've got the EMS Synthy doing is fairly boring, but it's just rhythmically reinforcing the beat in the background. It's very Boards of Canada, isn't it? I do like the EMS Synthy. So yeah, lots of rhythmical devices and absolutely no drums, which yeah, I was quite pleased with that one. It's I kind of stopped rather than saying, yeah, that one's done. It was more a question of just saying, you know, I'm just going to say, yeah, that'll do. and I might come back to it next month and completely change it and add guitar solos and everything else. But it's quite interesting because I'm going to go to shelf cam now, because bit of technology that I haven't been using, I've been neglecting, is this thing. Which is an absolute cracking solid state guitar amplifier made by Blackstar. It's only 15 watts, but it delivers the most phenomenal guitar sound, and it also, how the way it works, the effects on it, it has a really easy way of synchronizing your delay and your reverb and your modulation to the track that you're recording. You know, where it says, how do you neglect Blackstar? I don't exactly neglect them, it has to be said. Definitely a keen Blackstar user here. This is a glorious amp, which has spent most of its life living in the lounge, because if I was... So some of my friends have so many guitars, they actually have what they call a couch guitar. So they have a couch amplifier and a couch guitar, and they just sit watching the telly and practicing. And that's got, you know, delay and modulation and reverb and chorus and phaser and flanger. And I think it cost me about 60 quid, 70 quid, something like that. It's insanely cheap. Here's something interesting, says Januaris. I actually don't have an amp. Well, these days, frankly, you don't really need one. And an awful lot of the stuff that I've done this month for February album writing month, the guitars are just being DI'd straight from my effects chain into the mixer. So you kind of don't need a proper amp, but believe me, when a proper amp is involved in the signal chain, it does really give the sound something special. Although I'm not even using the speaker on this, I'm using the DI. So there we go, there's just a DI out from that. Really got into using the Blackstar this week, and maybe that's why my guitar playing has had a bit of a kick up the pants and got me to the point where, as Mel was saying, you know, you're playing like a boss. So yeah, having the right sound, having that ability to just go, yeah, I want to do this now, and just pushing the button and off you go, makes life so much easier. And yeah, I know I'm in a very privileged position to have a room like this where I can literally just do that. But my goodness me, it's fun. It is so much fun in here. I should have done this years ago. I really should. Can you believe it's what, beginning of November that I signed off a Sunday night show and said, right, I'm going to pull the studio apart now. And here we are 4 months later, 3 months later, and this room's completely different. And I think the sound that I'm getting out of it is completely different now as well. And I will be making more sounds and recording more guitars and consulting my Oblique Strategies cards some more in the forthcoming week, because we have a week of February album writing month left. I was looking up how many songs I've written each year that I've taken part in February album writing month. I think it was 2016. I went a little bit mad and did 31. And no, I am not doing 31 songs again this February album writing month. Yellowware says, you know, you should make the studio so that it rotates. The bookshelves give a room such brilliant acoustics. Yeah, absolutely. Bookshelves are actually one of the recommended acoustic treatments for breaking up the reflections in a room. So I'm golden within here. I really am. And it does really help the room acoustics in here. Although Shure SM7B really does most of the heavy lifting, it has to be said. And if it gets noisy, I just pick up an SM58. So I've got one squirreled away in a box under there somewhere, along with a few SM57s. And they're really, really good in noisy environments, because you've basically got to have your nose on the microphone for it to even register that you're there at all. Ryako Music says, I like that you have significantly fewer head injuries. Yeah, it's funny how not being under the bed when I'm recording has actually changed some of my guitar playing techniques, because I think one of the tracks that I did this week, I actually played the guitars standing up just to see what it sounded like, if it made a difference. I love how, Shure have started spotting which are the iconic microphone shapes that they make, that people buy thinking, I want one that looks like that. So there is now a podcast microphone with a USB out on that Shure do, and it looks exactly the same as one of these, but believe me, it won't sound like it. It really won't. This was a lot of money for me for a microphone, but goodness me, I have had my money's worth from it. It blows every other microphone I've got. Even, don't tell it, it even blows the Super 55 out the water in terms of what it does for my voice. I love it. So yeah, that's what track was that? That was, I can't believe it, track number 18 for February album writing month this month, which is yeah, considering we've got a week to go, I should get comfortably into the 20s. I still have, well, I've sent off my contribution to the Dragon Dreams house party, and if you're going to send a contribution in, today is the deadline, so you have to get your contribution to Paul by close of business today. Ryako Music says, you're going to hurt the other Mike's feelings. Sorry. Yeah. Didn't mean it. I will be using the Super 55 on one track. I should do a retro track, because I mean the Super 55 is effectively called the Elvis mic, and when the United States Postal Service did a postage stamp commemorating Elvis's life, there was a Super 55 in his hand. Absolutely. Yeah, where it says make a Jethro Tull track. No. What sort of genres am I going to tackle this week? That's a good question, actually. All right, I'm not going to do Tull, but I haven't played the weird time signature card very much this month. I'd done one in what did I did one in 6/8, I think, and that's about as weird as it's got. Or did I do one in 12/8? Can't even remember now. They all blur into one another over the last 3 weeks, because yeah, I'm just getting old and senile, I think. But they were good fun. Yeah, so I'll probably bust out something in 7/8 or 11/8 or 13/8, because Tom Slatter's been knocking them out of the park. Not only has he been writing stuff in weird time signatures, he's then sung the thing while playing the guitar in those weird time signatures, and his stuff has embedded YouTube videos of him performing the damn thing live, and he's brilliant at it. And I do not know anybody else who can sing in 11/8 and make it sound like a traditional 4/4 pop song. So do check out Tom Slatter January says Tom S makes everyone else to sound like an... Ah, yes, that's our friend Mr. Spademan, though. Tom S is Tom Spademan, and yeah, he's... everything he does is just perfect in my book. And Mr. Johnson, Mr. Downburst, has also been he hasn't been doing an awful lot this form, but what he's done has really hit home. January says, am I getting my toms mixed? Yes, you are. So, but there are so many toms. And in the Slack chat yesterday, we had Von Vorten and we had TC. So that was 2 toms. And Helen said, all the toms. And I said, it's the Tom Tom Club. I was rather pleased with that one. January says, no, that's the floor tom. Yeah, indeed. There are. It's a common name, but we have some very musical toms in February Album Writing Month, and you should go and listen to their stuff because it is really good. Whether it's TC, whether it's Tom Spademan, Tom S, whether it's Tom Slatter, whether it's Von Vorten or Tom as we call him, they're all doing good work this month. But I've run out of pieces of music to play you. I've been going, good Lord, 1 hour and 50 minutes. So it must be getting quite late for those of you in Finland and Belgium and Germany. So if you have work tomorrow, I will let you go off and get your much deserved sleep. If you're stuck at home tomorrow, then chill out. January says, I went to bed at 4 a.m. Yeah, I get very tempted to do that because I'm a night owl and I'm really now just beginning to get to the point of going, right, yeah, I can work on music now, and then realise, oh, I've got neighbours, and I should really go to sleep and get a decent night's sleep. And as January says, you need your beauty sleep too. I definitely... Excuse me. I did the most amazing supper tonight. I just have to say, my new favourite thing ever. Stir frying with sesame oil and yaki udon noodles. So sesame oil, red miso paste, and yeah, chicken, mushrooms, yaki udon noodles, all stir fried together. It was absolutely... Downstairs smells like a Chinese takeaway or a Japanese teriyaki place. Just so good. And I don't know if you saw on Twitter, so this is HFO's closing comments are, of course, about food because Ryako Music is here, and Ryako Music has already mentioned food. She says, I made a berry pie yesterday with the most perfect crust. I've had a espresso machine of some description in the kitchen now for about 15 years. And, you know, the ones with the group head and you fill the... Not an espresso, but a proper, you know, get a scoop out, tamp it down with a tamper, put it in the group head, twist the thing, dials everything, get the right pressure, everything else. And they have steam ones. So you put the jug of milk in, you have the temperature thermometer and you steam it until it gets to the right temperature. And so I love making coffee. I had one of these machines for 15 years ago. And it was not until Friday night that it occurred to me that I do steamed milk for my latte in the mornings. What would it be like if I used steamed milk instead of just boiling milk in a pan? What if I steamed milk for my hot chocolate? OMG. My mouth's watering just saying steamed milk and hot chocolate. All right, I did have a shot of Stroh 80 in it, which is 80% by volume Austrian rum, which is And yes, there was a marshmallow or two, and there may even have been some whipped cream. But I have never had a mug of hot chocolate that tasted that good, ever, that I've made. Absolutely extraordinary. So when I'm done here, I'm going downstairs and I'm going to make another one, because I also got a really, 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 really good night's sleep as a result. And Ryako Music says grown-up hot chocolate. Oh, absolutely, it was grown-up hot chocolate. It was lush. Reformation says, my dad's all about the stro. I've nearly run out. I was panicking as well because it smells like jet fuel. It does. Yeah, and I mean, it's lethal. It's lethal stuff. I have found out that I will be able, post-Brexit, to avail myself of supplies from the Whiskey Exchange, who do sell it in this country. So, huge sigh of relief, because I can't see myself visiting Germany or Austria anytime particularly soon. In fact, to be honest, I can't see myself visiting anywhere other than the supermarket or the doctors for the next year, which kind of sucks. Ryako Music says, lol, how drunk were you? I was very, very drunk. Yanuary says, who's playing the keyboard? No idea, sir. But, yeah, I am not drunk now, but I am definitely, yes, you recognised it, the Fast Show indeed. If there is one show that just dropped catchphrases left, right and centre, it was the Fast Show, which was nice. And with that, I will bid you a good night. So thank you very much for stopping by. Thank you very much for keeping me company. Thank you very much for mocking me in the chat. And thank you for, in Yuha's case, actually contributing to the music that you heard this evening. I will be back on Thursday with Twitch live stream number 41. 41 weeks of Thursday night show. So when we get to March and we hit show number 42, I might have to do something a bit special, because 42. I'll be back on Thursday at 19:30 GMT. I'll be back here once again next Sunday at 2100 GMT for the Form wind-up show, because Form finishes on... well, it kind of should finish at midnight on Sunday next week, but you can still post songs to the February Album Writing Month website until it is no longer February anywhere on the planet. In other words, when March arrives on the international dateline, which works out at being noon in London on March the 1st. So if you kind of oversleep and you think, oh crap, I should have posted that song to Form, then worry not, because you will be able to do so if you live in the UK at least for all of Monday morning. So that's another reason for not stressing about taking part in Form. If you're doing February Album Writing Month, have fun with it, but don't take it too seriously. Don't kill yourself. Don't worry yourself. Don't make yourself ill just by stressing out over a website that asks you to write 14 songs in 28 days. Believe me, it is just not worth stressing about something like that. So please don't. And if you're not writing songs for February Album Writing Month in the following week, then please wear a mask if you're going out. But whatever you're doing, stay well, stay safe, stay healthy, stay Wayne, stay sane, and I will see you at the same time next time, or even earlier, or possibly later. And I may live stream on Twitch at random evenings or afternoons or mornings. And yeah, I'm losing the plot, so see you all.